Japan is still the third largest economy, just by a skosh by the Chinese since last year. And much of our work is really indeed about...
She had provided consulting on consumer goods, retail, high-tech, and media in New York. Now, she is a senior partner and managing director at the company's Tokyo office, and she travels around the world as a global leader in marketing and sales. We interviewed Miki Tsusaka.
Ms. Tsusaka, it is very nice to meet you. For starters, what kind of work are you currently doing? And please speak so that the students will understand you.
Yes, of course. I work in a company called the Boston Consulting Group. We are a global management consulting company and have offices in about 70 cities around the world. I work in their Tokyo office with companies in Japan and internationally as well. I tell my children I'm a business doctor. I work with good companies and make them better. And if a company is not doing so well, I help them get better. That's my job.
Tell us a little about you from your studies at college and onward.
After I graduated from college, studying government and East Asian studies, I came back to Japan and worked in a management consulting firm, the Boston Consulting Group, and then I returned to the US to get my master's in business administration, also at Harvard. And after that, I continued to work in the same company in New York and have again returned to Tokyo 5 years ago.
What kind of student were you in junior high school and high school?
It's a good question. My mother would say I was very majime. I studied very hard. But my father would say I also played very hard as well. So I worked hard at school, but I also had a lot of outside interests that had nothing to do with school as well.
How did you study English?
I studied English for the first time when I moved to New York with my family. I was in nursery school and was dropped into a school and spoke absolutely no English at all. I then returned to Japan, and again, in junior high school, I went back to the US and had to learn English again. Both times, it was not easy, but I'm glad I had the opportunity to learn English that way as I was growing up.
Why did you go to Harvard after graduating high school in Japan?
Actually, I graduated high school in New York. I also attended Japanese school on Saturdays. So I had a choice whether to stay in the United States for college or come back to Japan and do some serious juken benkyo. I decided that at that time I would stay in the US and study at Harvard, but I knew that I would also come back to Japan and bring back what I learned in the US and maybe even go to graduate school in Tokyo.
What did you like about campus life in America?
It was a very long time ago, but I remember my years at Harvard very fondly. What I remember the most are the tremendous friendships that you develop with your fellow students from around the world, whether they are from France and Germany. The first freshman from mainland China came to Harvard that year as well, and she remains a very good friend of mine. Friends from Africa, countries that I didn't even know about. It is a very wonderful opportunity to, of course, meet up and get to know American friends, but to meet people from around their world and learn how they all arrived at Harvard. But beyond the friends, it's a great campus. Living in a dorm was a lot of fun. We were 2 hours away from skiing, 10 minutes away from downtown Boston. So the memories are very fond and fun.
So, what did you usually do after school and on weekends?
So the weekdays and weekends were quite different. To be very honest, during the weekdays, I studied really hard. There was a lot of work, and I needed to put in the hours at the library to keep up with my work. But I was also involved in things like theater groups. I studied piano for 15 years, so I would go with the theater group to help them rehearse. And so that was part of what I had to do at school. The weekends were different. I tried my best to keep my weekends free of any homework. And I love sports, so I played tennis, I go skiing, go running, and shopping. Shopping was very good in Boston. We were also a train ride away from New York City, so I would visit friends there. So it was, again, a good memory. And the weekends were more fun than the weekdays.
Was there ever a time you had trouble communicating in English?
Oh, yes. I had probably the most difficulty when I was in junior high school in New York, when I moved from Tokyo to New York.
How did you get through that?
It wasn't easy. I think on the hardest days, you would try to speak, but it wouldn't come out the right way. You would try to speak, and the person on the other side says, I don't understand. I think the only way to get through it is to try again, and probably the third time your message may come across. I think you also have to ask for help. You can consult a dictionary, you can consult a friend. I think there's always an appreciation that a foreign language is difficult. So the good news is there are always people around to help you.
Do you use English on the job here in Japan?
Yes, I do use a lot of English in my business, and much more than I expected. If I work for an international company in Japan, clearly you have to speak English. But even with Japanese companies I work with, many of their issues now are about growing their businesses outside of Japan. So as a result, I use it every day, even with Japanese clients, whether I'm speaking or reading something that helps me do my job with them.
What can students do to learn English?
Well, there's a lot you can do. The first thing is to just do it. Just speak it, just write it. Don't worry that it's not right. Your teachers may disagree, but you have to get comfortable hearing your voice in another language. And the more you do, the better you get at it. The second thing I would recommend is if you look at the world of music, entertainment, art, there's so much beyond Japan that is exciting. And it's a shame if you can't absorb that in English. So if music is your thing, then listen to music in English. If sports is your thing, listen to the soccer game in English. There are many ways you can get your ear accustomed to a foreign language and make it increasingly familiar to you.
Would you tell us about any future challenges or goals you have?
I have many, many challenges, but my biggest challenge and hope is the well-being of my 3 children. I have a 19-year-old girl, a 16-year-old boy, and a 12-year-old boy. As we're speaking about English, I hope all 3 of my children can speak Japanese, can speak English. 2 of them are now interested in Chinese as well. If I compare myself to the people I work with, from Europe. I think it's remarkable. They speak 5, 6 languages. When I retire, I would like to learn another language.
Thank you very much. Would you please give a message to the students in Japan?
There's one message I'd like to leave you with, which is to know that you are living in one of the most amazing countries in the world, and you have the opportunity to contribute to whatever happens in this country, and that you can do that even better if you open up your horizons just a little bit by learning English or any other language for that matter. Why not? Please give it a try, and very best of luck to you all.